Great topic for another show, so I'd love to hear that one. Actually, I'm wondering.
Oh, geez.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Ronnie.
And I'm Ronald.
And this is the Ron's World, where we talk about the topics on everybody's mind, but nobody takes the time to talk about. And today, if you haven't already subscribed, do so, because you're going to want to get the tips we have for you. We are talking about how to nail that job interview. Ronald, what do you think?
Well, number one, you have got to be you. Go in there as your sincere, authentic self. And number two, you have to know the organization you're getting into. Do your research. Number three, know that job role that you're applying for. You want to make sure that you're well prepared. Ronnie, what do you think?
Well, I think Ronald knows how to count, which is very good, but those were some good tips. Now listen, this is a topic that, unlike many, we've got a pretty good understanding on, and if you're seeking a job, you're gonna wanna pay really close attention. Get that notepad out, get that pen ready, because you're gonna be amazed. Some of the worst things that I have seen from an interview is the people who can't sit still. They're clicking their pen, they're tapping their feet, they're nervous, they won't look you in the eye, they'll stare off into space. Like, being present in that moment is so key for a good interview. And when you get that weirdness, it makes me uncomfortable. One of my friends had interviewed this person who came in and actually farted during the interview and didn't claim it. They literally just kind of leaned over and farted and kept going like nothing had happened. Could you imagine being in an interview in that scenario?
I can't even imagine.
So Ronald, everything looks pretty decent here. One of the things that I noticed on here, it says that you were, really the most popular person in your last company, and it doesn't really have any citing of a reference there.
Yeah, my last company.
Did you just fart?
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, that would be...
Did you just fart?
That would be disgusting.
You can't fart in an interview. So one of the things that I have seen as the biggest problem is that people put on their resume things that are, they're true with maybe some embellishment, because you will get pressed on those and you better have those things memorized. Ronald, it says here that you are certified with the jackhammer. Can you walk me through that skill set that you've used? Jackhammer?
That's my other resume. I thought this was like for office work. I didn't mean to, I wasn't really mentally prepared to talk about my...
But do you have a certification in jackhammering? Is that even a thing? And you need to make sure you have the skill set and the tools in your belt to do that job, which is why on that resume you need to make sure you list those special skills. Another thing I think that's so crucially overlooked when you go into a job interview is the body language, looking people in the eye, showing that confidence, because nobody wants to hire somebody who's this kind of meek, passive person. Ronald, it says here on your resume that you were an underwater beady stacker. Can you explain that to me a little bit more in detail, please? Are you okay?
I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No, we're good.
Here's another thing you really have to avoid. You have to avoid talking negatively about your past employer.
It says here, Ronald, that you were let go from your last employer. Can you elaborate on the reason behind that?
Yeah, I really didn't want to say anything, but my last boss was a real hole.
I see.
Yes.
I see.
Yes, and you know what? I really wasn't paid what I was worth, and I had to bounce.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Even if maybe you were fired at your last job, or maybe you quit because you disagreed with where that business was going, you have to avoid it. So you actually come into the interview prepared to be able to either kind of move the conversation in a different direction, or to be able to put a sincere, neutral spin on it.
Yeah, and when they do ask you a question that you don't like, because you will get those questions that you just don't want to hear the answers to, you have to master the block and bridge. The block and bridge is very simple. They ask you a question, you don't really want to answer it because you're afraid you might say something negative or you might paint you in the wrong light. You simply restate the question, say that's interesting, and then you tell them the point that you want.
Another thing you want to avoid is going into an interview and you know nothing about the business. Yeah, well, people like me. That's just how it works. People around me, just like yourself, They like it. They like this, you know?
You're wearing flip-flops.
So you need to go in the interview where you've done your research, not just read their website. That's what anybody can do. But you can go on all the social media sites, see what they're talking about, this particular company. Like, what do the employees care about there? What's working, what's not working, and go in with a true understanding of what you're getting into in the organization, their goals, their people, their culture a bit. And nowadays, you can connect with people all over the place. And they're guaranteed you're going to know somebody who actually works there or who has worked there. You can even talk to them. That way, when you go there, the people are impressed that, hey, you did your homework. This is worth their time to interview you.
Yeah. You know, another key thing that I think people often forget is when somebody says at the end of the interview, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Anything else you would like to tell us about you? Now, you always have something to add. You always have something to tell them, even if you have nothing new.
Right.
You restate the most positive thing you said in the interview again, just so that's the last thing in their memory. Yeah,
100%. So you want to leave them ideally with maybe a couple, 3 key points, but ending on that punchline, like why you? Why are you the ideal candidate? And that's assuming that there's a bunch of wonderful candidates out there, but you always have to go into an interview believing that you are the exact candidate for that job, because otherwise, why would you go? So you have to go in with a level of confidence and that sincerity about who you really are to be able to give off that impression. And then you got to dress appropriately.
Have a seat, please.
I think I will.
I'm good.
What?
I'm good.
Oh man, I like this place. I could see myself working here.
You should take a good mental picture of that so you can dream about it.
Make sure that you're establishing a rapport when you go into a job interview.
So, of all of that, there is one thing I would agree with you on, and that is about rapport. And one of the greatest ways to do that in a job interview is something I like to call cherry picking. Look around the room, be present in the environment, find something that is, unique or custom or personal to that person interviewing you, and use that to talk about. Maybe you have some common interest to a painting or a piece of art or a geography. Really be responsive, because I do think that is important. But again, this is a job interview, not a date. You're not going out for some social experiment. You're there to make money. Another thing, and I'm not sure Ronald has done this, but when you get to a place where they're done asking you questions and they say, do you have questions? You should have questions. They're not asking that just to see if you're always going to have questions about the company, the job, anything else. Ask them questions, and don't be afraid to dig in and get a little personal. You comfortable?
I'm much more comfortable now.
Another question on here, it says, Ronald, that ask them questions about how they got their job here. What do they love about it? Like, people love to talk about themselves, and this is now your opportunity to flip the script on them and let them talk about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And being conversational. It's always good to come in with notes, but just running through that list of questions, it makes the situation a little sterile. So come in with some of this stuff kind of in your head. It's okay to look at your notes. It's perfectly fine. But get the relationship started during that meeting and getting a real conversation. So they come out of the meeting saying, man, this person has a good feeling of the organization. They know what they're getting into, because the interviewer wants to make sure that that new potential employee actually knows what they're getting into. Because worst case scenario, person comes in and they're like, this is not what I signed up for, and then they end up quitting or they gotta get fired, and it wastes everybody's time, including the person getting interviewed.
If you're a Ron's World subscriber, you are probably thinking right now, I've never seen Ronald and Ronnie agree on anything, and I think this is a breakthrough show for us where we are more in alignment than we are in difference, and that does not happen.
Yeah, I actually don't believe it's happening right now. I think it's some kind of like alternative universe that happened, so I think we got to look at this episode as some alternative universe. I'm actually feeling rather uncomfortable that you even said that, Ronnie. I couldn't verbalize it myself.
Well, if you are new, please take a moment, subscribe down below.
And let us know other topics you want us to talk about. You want us to give us some tips on buying a car? We might do that episode.
Ooh, I like that idea. I like that.
Not bad,
well,
huh?
For now, I'm Ronnie.
And I'm Ronald.
This is the Ron's World. Talk to you next week.